Many studies have shown that social and emotional competencies in children are degrading rapidly over the past 25 or 30 years. That children have fewer social skills, they have fewer ways to regulate their emotions. Meanwhile, the stress levels are going through the roof because everything's going faster and faster and faster, and driven in part by the digital age. Kids are perpetually distracted by their smartphones and everything else. And so, rather than yelling at the kids to pay attention, it's very useful for teachers to know how to actually teach the kids how to pay attention. And what is mindfulness? It's about paying attention, remember, on purpose, in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So even if you don't have attention deficit disorder, it's really good to train the muscle of attention. So teachers are spontaneously even bringing it into the classroom because they need to connect with the children. And the best way to connect with the children is to make learning an adventure. And the best way to do that is to connect with the domain of being rather than the domain of just doing. So when teachers do that, then the classroom gets calmer, yes, that's one benefit, but the children get more interested in learning and in actually being in relationship with each other in ways that are much more socially and emotionally intelligent. So there's more and more research that's showing that mindfulness can actually help accelerate what's called social emotional learning. Because social emotional learning, which is a big movement in the United States, really is very cognitively oriented. And it's all about what to do when certain things happen, but it's very cerebral. And what the mindfulness does is, again, it brings you a practice that you can actually do when you're not under stress, when you're not having social and emotional challenges. And then when you get into trouble with, one kind of emotion or another, or a difficult social situation, you'll have this reservoir of balance and strength and clarity and insight and calmness to call upon. And that's something that teachers would give their right arm to have in the classroom. The more we're cultivating these kinds of qualities early in life, the happier we're going to be and the better our brains are going to function to be able to learn, to be able to have effective working memory, to be able to have an effective, what's called executive functioning, where we can make very rapid decisions about different kinds of circumstances we find ourselves in, choices, perspective taking, and then learning and memory, and emotional reactivity. So there's not one way in which I believe mindfulness couldn't be profoundly valuable for children, again, if it's done in the right way. And if it's not done in the right way, it would be a travesty to actually do it. So we have to proceed very sensitively in that regard. Meditation's not like any other thing that you would learn in the world, because everything we learn for a purpose to try to improve ourselves. But mindfulness is not about improving yourself at all. It's about recognizing that you're already perfect just as you are. I know that sounds like a very radical thing, because all of a sudden the mind will come up with, well, he doesn't know who I am. Of course, I know I'm not perfect. But I would respond that, yes, you are perfect. You're perfect, including all your imperfections. The whole thing is perfect. And actually, you'll never be more perfect than in this moment, because let's face it, we're all aging, we're all moving, out of this world in one way or another. So the present moment is the only moment we ever have in which to live a satisfying life, to be in touch with ourselves. And so when we cultivate mindfulness, we're not actually trying to feel anything special, get into any special state, or attain anything special. So that's where this element of what we call non-doing and non-striving comes in. Now that's very unusual in the West, because we're always after something to make ourselves happier or better or, something. Or we're always pushing away what we don't want. Pain and suffering and, aversive experiences. But what mindfulness is saying, let's put the welcome mat out and just, in this moment, live life as it is and embrace it with awareness. Now that takes a certain amount of discipline, but when you do it, there is really no place to go, nothing to do, and nothing to attain, because if you're looking for some extraordinary state, you are already inhabiting quite an extraordinary state. After all, if we just take me for an example, I'm looking at you, my eyes are seeing you. Do I know how that happens? No. Am I happy that my eyes work? Yes. I'm breathing. Do I have to worry about my breath? No. Is my breath taking care of itself? Yes, it is. If it were up to me to remember to breathe, I would have died a long time ago because I would have gotten distracted. My cell phone goes off. Whoops. Forgot to breathe. Dead. So there's a certain way in which we're already whole. And yet we ignore that, and we always think about what's missing, what I need, what I want, and so forth. So when you drop in on yourself and cultivate mindfulness, either in formal meditation practice or in everyday life, what you're really doing is recognizing that you're already alive, and you're inhabiting the only moment you ever have in which to be alive, and that's this one. And when you do that, then the next moment is going to be very different because you've been willing to show up in this one. That means that you're actually influencing the future by owning the present. So while it seems like nothing, you know, people will say, well, I've had enough of this. My breath is so stupid, and body sensations, and it's so uncomfortable, and after a while I get itchy and want to move, and can't I just read a book or have a nice conversation? And of course you can, but you see, what we're talking about is the mind that's not happy with itself and not happy with the body. And we're actually exercising the muscle to help us come to equanimity within ourselves, to come into well-being, to actually taste it, to touch it, and then to live from this place in this moment. At the crossroads, if you could say one street is here and the other street is now, we could live here.